kindly hold on for me. Let's quickly take a look at the consumer price index from a statistician.
Inflation for the month of November 2022. For November 2022, on a year-on-year basis, inflation stood at 50.3%, indicating that prices of goods and services between November 2021 and November 2022 went up by 50.3%. Disaggregating this from a food and non-food inflation perspective, food inflation recorded November 2022 inflation 55.3%, non-food inflation 46.5%, indicating an 8.8 percentage point difference between food and non-food inflation for the month of November 2022. From the perspective of locally produced items and imported items continue to record the highest rate of inflation of 55.1%, rising from 43.7% for the month of October 2022, and inflation for locally produced items 48.3%, again indicating an increase from 39.1%.
Okay, so I've been joined by Awal Mohammed. He's a public relations officer, Youth Employment Agency, and then of course NPP Communication team member. Good morning to you.
Good morning, myself.
Good to have you.
Good to have you.
All right. Okay, I'll come to you in a bit, but before that, Honorable was on a submission before we took the video.
Okay, so I was talking about the IMF, you know, the good news that has come with the IMF. But what I am saying is that if we don't manage the economy well, this will mean nothing, because it is as a result of mismanagement of the economy that has brought this our economy to the worst ever.
Okay.
So what I am saying is that if they don't put measures to ensure that we have the right economic management team in place, we are still going to continue to go into difficulties. And one of the reasons why the economy is in shambles is the underperformance of the finance minister. And the finance minister who has become untouchable. And that is the reason why some of the minority MPs, the majority MPs, also understand that the finance minister's incompetence has brought this country, to this mess. And so they were bold enough to come out to support minority to impeach this finance minister, this poor performing finance minister. And unfortunately, they were invited and threatened by His Excellency. From the reports we paid from Rivan. And then they were also, taken through a lot of discussions, and so that compelled them to backtrack on their decision to support us in the
Honorable, let me speak to Awal. I know he wants to come in, but before that, Awal, let me take your view on this. Ghana's inflation surged to 50.3% in November, highest in 27 years. What does this mean to the ordinary Ghanaian?
Thank you so much. Good morning to our cherished viewers, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And I must apologize for coming in late. It's the traffic in front of you here. I've been here for like 10 minutes before.
I see.
Yes.
Honorable, did you face him?
Not much. Not much.
Yes. Maybe the time he came, and where he also came from. He came from this end, right?
I came from.
I came from this end. That's the reason.
Right.
So I'm sorry. Just before I get to that, there are some issues that I had Honorable raised, in which I think
I wanted you to speak on the inflation issue.
I'll speak on it because it's a major topic that you brought us to talk about. But there are some few things that he said, and I think that I will have to clear that.
Okay.
Whilst I sit here, I heard him say that indeed our ministers, including the finance minister, said that we are not going to IMF. We're a proud nation, and we're not going to IMF. We'll make sure that at least we expand the tax net. That was what the minister said. And quite a number of people had their views on going back to IMF. But going to IMF was a cabinet decision and not the minister's decision. So one minister can say, I don't want us to go to IMF. But if the government says go, you have to go. So that was the reason the president directed the finance minister to initiate talks with IMF so that at least we go for a bailout. So, yes, what he said is true, that he said we're not going to IMF.
Right.
He was envisaging that we'll be able to expand our tax net. If you check the manifesto of almost all the political parties from 2000 up to today, they have all inserted that we will expand the tax net.
What went wrong, Awal?
We started with e-levy, which could cover everyone. You, the minority, went round and said it is to bottom tax.
But we are still paying e-levy.
I'm saying that when we started, we did the analysis. We got to know that if really we continue with that and Ghanaians will pay, there is the highest possibility we'll get 6 billion every year.
Right.
The minority bastardized it, demonized it, and said that it's really something that they shouldn't do. There was an orchestrated communications across the country, to the extent that even those who are doing the mobile money merchants, who were not even affected, started crying out. Those abroad, they said, when I send money to my mother and my mother is even withdrawing, I was on set with a minister, a former minister who is an MP, who said that even if he sends it and they are withdrawing, they still take it. So they did all these things to the extent that it fell short of around 200 to 300 million Ghana cedis. So definitely will not generate anything. You understand? It's not about warning, but how do we expand the tax net to cover everyone? That's the most important thing.
Right.
So you are telling us, don't generate revenue in Ghana. Go to IMF for bailout.
And you left.
And we are telling you that it is better we generate, because even if we go, it's a loan that we are coming to pay. So that is the reason where we are today.
Right.
Again, when you, he said, going to IMF was as a result of mismanagement. Interesting. Then you know more than Christianella Georgievita, what's the IMF boss. A journalist from Ghana went and met her. A journalist from Joy FM went there, met her at a sideline of a program and asked her, is it as a result of mismanagement that Ghana is coming for a bailout? She said no. She clearly said, you have the video here. When she said that no, it is not, Ghanaians have competent people. The only thing is that it is as a result of the aftermath of COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine. And when you check all the bigger economies in Africa and in the world, they are worse affected with the COVID-19. Ghana is the 8th biggest economy in Africa. Check all the first to 8. They are all suffering under huge inflation. Even in the US and the UK, 50-year high. Ours is how many years high? You said 27.
Yeah.
US is 40-year high. We import largely from Turkey. Turkey is 89%, getting to 100 today. So that should tell you that the aftermath of COVID-19, all the bigger economies had challenges with controlling inflation. And that brings me to what you just said. And again, you see, when you said that the minority know that the majority said that Ken Ofori-Atta was incompetent, they never said it anywhere that he was incompetent. They said they went to their constituents and they spoke to their constituents and they said they have lost confidence in his leadership, so they must leave. That was why they said. Your reporters were there. In the press conference, they never said he was incompetent. They said it has nothing to do with competence. But because people have lost confidence in his leadership, don't forget that for the past 6 years, he has been at the helm of affairs. Almost all the good things about this government, he did that. Even your common fund and others, he was paying. How many times have you heard that common fund is in an arrears to the extent that some people had to go to court under Mahama? People had to go to court for even statutory payment to be paid. When we didn't even have any crisis anywhere.
You are good at opposition.
No, I'm saying that when we didn't even have crisis anywhere, people had to go to court for all this to be paid. But
were up to date in your payments and so on, it should tell you that he is not incompetent. The managers of the economy are not incompetent. An economy that you said that cannot support the free senior high school. He's been paying the free senior high school for the past 6 years.
I wish you saw the education budget. I was sitting in the budget.
I am saying that.
Where we were perusing education.
When you hold on, I'll just finish so that you.
Please hold on.
You could tell that we never said this man is a. For instance, as you said here, you're doing very, very well in hosting. If your producers say that they really do not like your leadership here, not really about your competence as a whole, but they will say your leadership because you've been shouting at the camera people, the producers and so on, so they don't need you there. It doesn't mean you are incompetent. It means you can serve better, not as a leader or as a lead to this morning show, but at least as a subordinate or something.
So do you think, with what you've just said, do you think the finance minister should resign and be given a new position?
The president he didn't threaten anyone. The president met them and told them, as the honorable MP said, that he threatened them and they backtracked. No, he can't threaten anyone. He did not threaten any of them. He met them and told them that since your constituents have lost confidence in his leadership, let him lead the IMF because he's still leading. Let him finish the IMF deal. Let him read the budget. After the budget, make sure that after appropriation is done, I will take a decision on him. So we envisage that in the coming weeks, the finance minister will leave that ministry. That's what we envisage, because these are clear words from the president that he will take a decision on him after Parliament, after they have really approved the appropriation. And we're done with the IMF deal. We're almost done because we have reached an agreement. And appropriation, they are still on. I'm told that there are some few things that is left for them to finish. If Parliament is able to finish all these things, the president will take a decision on that. On inflation, I believe that we all know that about 40 to 50% of the inflation we see in this country are imported. The minister, the MP rightly mentioned that when the dollar is going up, there is the highest possibility that food prices and other things will go up, commodities and other things will go up. It's one of the reasons why today you've seen that the monetary policy of Bank of Ghana, the policy rate has been moved up. It came to around 14.5%. But to control inflation, they tried to move it up so that at least they are able to control liquidity in the system. So the inflation in the next 1 to 2 months, because don't forget that when they were doing the calculation, they used November. This is for November. So if you check, we went through turbulent times from October to November. So I was not surprised to see 50.3% because if you check, they said food prices, fuel, and other things. Today, the fuel has come down to the extent that some are doing 16%. Tomorrow,
so
there is the highest possibility.
When are we going to see this reflect in goods and commodities in the market?
So Guta last week issued a statement that they want their people to start reducing. So if you check that time, when they even issued that that edict, it was just some 4 days ago. And today, the dollar is around 9, according to Bank of Ghana.
I see.
It's 9. Yes, when you check right now, you can let your producers check. It's now 9. So when it was even 13, they still ask their people that the thing is coming down. So reduce your wares and so on. So it won't reflect today or tomorrow. What will reflect is the transport fares, which I am certain. And I'm hoping that they don't finish the conversation today, because I know that the transport minister is having a meeting with the transport owners and transport operators and so on. I hope that they don't finish it today, so that at least tomorrow the decrease in the commodity will also come down, so that at least they'll factor everything in. We don't expect anything less than 20% reduction in that. So it means that the inflationary figures on transport will come down when they are calculating next month, because definitely it will come down. So when you see these two things, that is the interest rate and even the commodity of fuel is coming down, there is the highest possibility that we'll be able to control the inflation.
Okay. Honorable, I'll take your submissions on what he has said so far. But